Welcome to Newly Invested, the podcast that's all about the real, sometimes raw journey of real estate investing. I'm your host, Judith Tait, bringing you conversations from the trenches of the investment landscape where we celebrate victories, learn from setbacks, and unlock the secrets to successful property investing. Whether you're a novice investor seeking tips and guidance or a seasoned pro eager to share your story, you've come to the right place. Let's get started and delve into the exciting world of real estate investing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Newly Invested. I'm your host, Judith Tait, and today we're speaking with Anita Bongers-Lewis. Hi, Anita.
Hey, Judith. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to join you.
Well, I'm just going to introduce you real quick here to our audience so they know who you are and what you're all about. And I've been, just before I introduce you, I've been working with you trying to find a student rental here in Durham, and you have been absolutely fantastic, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. So I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks.
So everyone, Anita is a wife, a mom, a real estate investor, an investor-focused real estate agent, and an ever-evolving entrepreneur. She is someone who is truly passionate about helping other individuals, families, partners, organizations, etc., to create a better future through the benefits of equity. This may be helping someone build a large real estate portfolio or even just purchase their first property with a group of friends. Anita started in real estate as an investor. She saw what real estate did for her family and now continues in it as both an investor and a realtor, allowing her to share her passion and experience with others. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you.
All right. So tell us just a bit about what you focus on, what you specialize in. It sounds, as I said, like you're just a wealth of knowledge. And so just share with the audience a bit about that.
Yeah. So what we focus on is a lot of what my bio said. So sitting down with people, finding out what it is they want to get through real estate, what their goal is, what their why is, what the means they have are, and how we match that up with a strategy that works for them, resonates with them, and allows them to improve their financial future. So house hacking, which I did a lot of myself, student rentals as well, I've done myself, multi-unit conversion from single family to multis. We have clients doing garden suites, infill development, and multi-residential as well. So we really just focus on helping find the right properties that fit the goals of particular investor clients. We do a lot of residential as well, but we definitely have a specialty in the investor world. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. You mentioned house hacking, like you have, you do a lot of stuff, but house hacking, I keep hearing that term come up quite a bit. So what exactly is that?
Essentially, house hacking can be as simple as living in a home and just renting other rooms to roommates. So you're getting income from the home by renting out rooms, or it could be what we did, which would be we'd buy a property, we'd live on the main floor while we renovated the basement, put tenants into the basement, then find tenants for the upper, move into the next home, and rinse and repeat. That worked really well for us. So essentially, it's a combination of your primary, but making your primary an investment property as well.
Oh, I love that. Very good idea. So when you started in real estate, were you working like a full-time job? How did you kind of get into doing real estate full-time?
So as far as being a realtor, if that's the question more specifically,
Yeah.
by trade, I was a chiropractor and acupuncturist.
Ah,
So I had met a realtor who helped us purchase our first few investment properties, and I ended up doing the education component to get my license. Not really because I thought I'd be a realtor, mostly because I like to learn. If anyone who knows me well knows I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I just like to learn as much as I can about things. So I went and got my license, and then the realtor I had used previously said, "Hey, I don't know how long I want to do this. How do you feel about sort of coming in and sort of a slow come in and take things over?" So I thought that sounded like a neat opportunity. So I did start part-time. I still
ah,
worked 25 hours a week at the hospital. And then I came in and did real estate the rest of the time, and did that for the first 3 years. And then after that went all in and did it full time, which was the best move I could have ever made. I will say, as an entrepreneur, being all in is much better than sort of 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
I agree. It probably makes it a lot easier.
It's the sink or swim, right? If you've got that safety net of a T4 income, are you holding back on like it's that fear, I think, for some people, the fear of failing, the fear of not being able to pay your bills that sometimes pushes you to take it to the next level.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so true. And how did you overcome that fear? Because that is quite a jump, going from that secure 9 to 5 to something that's very uncertain.
So for some perspective for me with how things happened, it was a bit of a perfect storm. So I was about 3 years into working on the team, but I was actually buying the team from the lead agent that I was working under. So what ended up happening was we were negotiating the buyout. That was all fine. And then COVID hit.
Huh?
And then I also found out I was pregnant with our second child. So
Oh,
it was sort of everything. It was, oh, COVID hit and we're going to do no business and I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I just bought a really big business. And now I'm laid off from my job because we got sent home because our program wasn't, necessary in those times, I guess. And oh, you're going to have a baby too. So you're going to run this team of agents and you're going to have a baby on top of that. So COVID forced me out of where I was already and forced me to just double down here in the real estate business. And the fact that I was going to have a baby in a few months too said, you better get your act together because you don't know what's going to happen when this little one comes. So I think it was just a matter of I had no choice. There
yeah.
wasn't what should I do? It was just every day was just do everything that you can and keep moving forward. And it worked out great.
That's great. So how long have you been investing altogether? Like how many years about?
Just about 20 years.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, the way we invest now has been only 10 years, but we had some pre-built condos that we had done before that.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
And can you share, like you kind of mentioned a few, but a very specific challenge that you encountered, and how did you overcome it when it comes to real estate investing?
Um, so the challenge that I had is probably different than most because I think a lot of people it's, analysis paralysis, things like that. We moved real quick once we decided to go in. Mine was anxiety around tenants. Mine was when we
Mm.
first started investing, we did purchase our first few properties very quickly. So I went from not being a landlord to being a landlord. And I used to have just extreme anxiety the second I saw that our property management mailbox had an email from a tenant or
Mm.
a call from a tenant. And my perception was that, well, they're only going to call me if something's wrong. And I had a tendency to analyze things a lot. So I was over analyzing. And the big challenge for me was not having it just take over things and be very much an anxious situation for me. It took me the first probably 2 years of us investing more when we started doing what we do now. In the past 10 years, what we did before when it was just condos, it was easy. It was one tenant here and there. It wasn't too
Hmm.
much. But now with multi-unit and we purchased 5 properties in one particular year, when that ramped up and everything started happening, I definitely had a lot of tension there. I've learned don't respond right away before you even open the email. Think to yourself, really, whatever it is, it's going to be fixed by either time or money or just talking to somebody. Unless my house burnt down, but even still, if it burnt down, I have insurance. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm healthy, my family's healthy. Whatever it
Hmm.
is can be resolved. And I really had to coach myself into that mindset before I'd open emails, which sounds silly to some people, but yeah, that caused me a lot of stress at the start. And
Uh-huh.
now, not at all.
And how do you get past that? Because I can kind of relate in a sense of like having that anxiety around being a landlord. Like I'm not a landlord yet, but I anticipate becoming one soon. And I've actually had bad experiences. So just to give everyone a bit of context, I'm a retired police officer, and we as in like me and my partners or the team, we'd go to many landlord and tenant disputes, and they weren't just to say hi, how are you, like they were negative, like we were tossing someone out, or there's a landlords harassing the tenants harassing the landlords,
Yeah.
or something, some type of complaint. We've helped the sheriff's office to like physically pull people out of their homes, and like evict them. So my experience has never been, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people. They don't have like a positive outlook. on being a landlord. So
Yep.
how do you get around that fear?
One is just time. If
Okay.
you
Yeah.
receive 100 emails over a period of however many days, years, months, whatever, you start to realize that once in a while they're bad, but they're not always bad. So that's good.
Yeah.
I just had to teach myself to think, okay, whatever it is, what's the worst that could happen? So we've had basements flood. Yeah, it's not
Oh,
fun, but it's fixable. It's not the end of the world. There's things that you can do. You have options. You just need to sit back, take a sort of a long distance view of things and say, okay, these are my options. These are the things I can do. This is how it resolves. Put your plan into action. Uh, I mean, some of the things that were more annoying are when tenants complain about one another. And I'm
mm.
not a mom. I can't say, well, so isn't clearing their recycling bins from the curb fast enough. I mean, what am I supposed to do? You're going to have to get over it. So some of it came down to just learning to screen tenants the best way I can, to make sure an upper and lower unit tenant, they fit, as far
Huh?
as, don't have a shift worker with somebody who works at a bar and comes home at 3 in the morning and decides to do their laundry at 3 a.m. when you've got
Huh?
somebody who needs to wake up at 5 a.m. to go work at TTC, right? Like, we started learning small lessons about how to make tenant relations better, because that was probably the one that was the hardest on me, because it just, it drove me crazy, because those things are hard to fix. Those conflicts are hard to fix. It's just personalities clashing and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So we learned to vet tenants better, to get better fits. But I just learned to not worry about what I can't control, which is really a unique thing for me, because I'm not necessarily great at that. I am a worrier by nature. But you go through it enough, and you have a flood, you have a pipe that bursts, you have all these things that happen, and you look at it on the when you're on the tail end of things, and you say, was that really that bad? That level of worry I had, was any of that ever warranted? Like, this really, we've positioned ourselves well, we respond well, we take care of our tenants and our properties. We're not spending our last dime, we have some reserves. What's the worst that can happen, really? So, yeah, it's been a lot easier to sort of mitigate those concerns and put my mind at rest. I also have an auto reply on the email to tenants that says we'll respond within 48 hours. So I
Hmm.
only check the email every other day,
Oh, good.
because that
Love it.
means I don't have to think about it. They have an emergency number if there's a true emergency. But for the Anita, the dishwasher's not working properly. Okay, I'll call the appliance repair person, we'll get it done. But I don't need to call it the minute it stops working, right? It's not an emergency. So we've
Mhm.
started implementing procedures like that. That's helped out a lot.
Oh, I love that because then you kind of manage those expectations that the tenants have.
From day one, they know,
Yeah.
and you have to tell them what's an emergency, what's not an emergency. You call this number for heat not working in the winter. That's an emergency. Pipe burst.
Hmm.
That's an emergency. Your toilet's clogged. I realize you do need a working toilet, but shoot me an email. Like, you'll be okay.
Hmm.
If the toilet shouldn't be clogged if you're doing everything properly. So it's probably a new door if it is. Just things like that, right? Like, oh, the handle broke on your fridge. Okay, that's going to take days to get fixed anyways. You don't need to call an emergency line for that. So,
Yeah.
complaint about the other tenant, not really an emergency line situation. Plus, things are
Yeah.
documented if it goes by email, which is nice too.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. I
Yeah.
love it. Great tidbits there. Stuff that I never thought of, especially when it comes to, tenant, like placing tenants, like the right tenant with, I guess, on top of or beside each other. That's
But we've
never would have
learned
thought of
that
that.
by having a bad fit first and having to live through that, right?
Wow.
Nothing teaches you better than pain, right?
Yeah.
Inconvenience and pain, they teach you things pretty quickly and you don't forget them. And the other thing that we've done pretty much from the start, which was a good thing too, is we have a separate email address and phone number for tenants. So we don't
Hmm.
want our personal phone numbers ringing all the time. We don't do
Yeah.
text. It's a business. It's not a personal thing. So we
Hmm.
don't do text, and we've set those expectations that we're not that instant response unless it's necessary.
Hmm.
Because they have lives, we have lives. Everybody wants to enjoy them.
I love it. So, what due diligence steps do you consider critical for any type of property investment?
Absolutely. So, my due diligence is understanding what the current use of the property is, what future use of the property can be. I like to make sure I have multiple exit strategies if that's something that I need to look at. So before we could live in it, we could sell it, we could rent it, options like that. We could bring in a partner if we needed capital. All of a sudden, we could bring in a joint venture partner, a money partner, second mortgages, things like that. We analyze the numbers. I'm highly analytical, so we do make sure we're looking at sort of best and worst case scenarios. We stress test our portfolio against higher interest rates, which was a very good thing given what's happened in the last year.
Yeah.
We do things like that, and we sit down every year and look at our portfolio and our goals, and we say, you know, does this activity we're doing, does this investment that we have, like, does everything fit towards our ultimate why? And is it putting us closer to those goals, or is it taking time away from other things we should be doing? So we do look at that every year to see what we should reposition in that sense. But with the due diligence, it's really the numbers, use of the property, potential future use of the property, and then understanding if it's a rental property, what my tenant profile is. So I know what I'm going to be dealing with. I do manage our properties, so I need to understand what is the profile I'm attracting with that property. So if it's a boarding house where it's just going to be a bunch of single rooms versus like there are some where there's like 20 rooms in a house, right? That's a different profile than a single family rental, than a triplex. Also based on where it's located, it may dictate who's going to be there as well. So in Bowmanville, we find we've been getting OPG workers often, and sometimes workers who actually own a home somewhere else, but they're here Monday to Friday. So it's great because there's less wear and tear on the units. They're gone every weekend to go home. They show up Monday morning straight to work. They sleep there Monday night through Thursday night. They leave Friday for work in the morning, and they're not back until Monday night. Sometimes that's a great fit for, you know, a unit that you want to be more quiet. It's actually, we have a unit that we live above. We still have a unit in our own home, and that tends to be the type of tenant we always get there. Yeah, the only thing that you'll find is there's a lot of takeout food because they're only there for a few days. So they're not going to stock the fridge a whole lot quite often.
That's quite funny.
Yeah.
So anyone who's looking to invest, would you what would you suggest? Would you suggest that they focus on one strategy or multiple strategies, or how do they decide what strategy they want to focus on?
I personally think you should stick, at least at the start, to one strategy. When you become more savvy, that's great. I find we'll have people come in, new people come in, and they'll say, well, I'm thinking about a flip in this area, or a student rental here, or a duplex conversion here, or a multi-unit there. If you're looking in too many markets for too many strategies, you're going to find nothing, because an opportunity comes to you and now you're like, okay, Barrie, oh shoot, Barrie. Okay, well, what are market rents in Barrie again? And you're analyzing that property from scratch. You're going to miss your opportunity because you just aren't specialized enough in that area. But when you do narrow in on a certain strategy, whether it's flip, whether it's conversions, whether it's turnkey, whether it's student rentals, whether it's short term, anything like that, if you know what you're looking for and the one or two areas that you're looking for it in, it's really easy to identify and compare and contrast the opportunities that are out there to find the right fit for you. But I think even before that, you need to sit down and say, okay, why am I doing this? What are my goals here? What do I want to achieve? You know, is cash flow more important? Is net worth or appreciation more important? Am I going to manage? Am I not going to manage? What's the capital that I have to invest in this? What's my mortgage qualification? Am I going to self-manage it? Does it need to be nearby? There's so many little questions that you need to sit down, and often with new clients, we can sit down and kind of, you came in knowing exactly what you wanted, which is perfect. But sometimes people are like, well, I've heard of this and I've heard of that. And so we just sit back and say, okay, well, we need to understand what are the means you have to be able to do this. What's the time you have? What's the skill and expertise? How can we get you from here to any strategy you choose? And what's a strategy that aligns with your goals the best?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's great advice. Because I do understand that when you're new in the whole world of investing, like you get that, well, for me, I got that shiny object syndrome. And by the time I came to you, I had already done so much looking and researching and just talking to people and just getting to know the different markets and stuff. And even going to a couple of different networking events.
Yep.
And I found that really helped me to narrow in on what exactly it is that I want to focus on.
Oh, exactly.
it was super helpful. In the beginning, it was just like, oh my goodness, there's so much information. And now it's just like, okay, this is where I want to be. So that,
And that's good because a lot of people, instead of just narrowing it down, still get
mhm,
stuck in analysis forever. Like the number of
yeah,
meetings I've gone to over the last 10 years where you run into, oh, I met you a couple of years ago. How are you doing? Did you take some action? Well, no, I'm still trying to figure out if I want to do this. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
you are never going to find the perfect fit because there is no perfect fit.
yeah,
There is no absolutely perfect situation because if it's perfect, it's probably not in your budget
yeah,
or
yeah,
it doesn't cash flow or things like that, right? So it's always something that you've got to finesse a little bit and make it work
yeah,
for your situation. And truthfully, the more you're willing to work and make it work or make things fit and the work you put into it, the more money you tend to make too. So
yeah. And what do you think keeps people stuck in that analysis by paralysis?
fear.
Yeah,
They want to control things and you can't.
yeah,
I mean, the number one most important thing in investing is taking action.
hmm,
Knowledge, of course, is paramount because if you don't have the knowledge and you invest poorly, you can end up in a lot of trouble.
hmm,
But you don't get anywhere if you don't take action. So my best example is the first property we purchased in Durham region. Anyways, we thought we messed up big time. We purchased a property that we thought we would easily convert to 2 units. Then we ran into issues with the frontage and the parking. Knowing what I know
mm,
now, I would have got a minor variance. It would have been easy to fix. But back then, I was so green. I thought, oh my God, what did we do? We bought this property. This is horrible. What can we do with it? Well, we quickly turned it into a student rental, a 6-bedroom student rental that
oh,
did really well for us for a number of years. We don't have it any longer, but it was a great property. We got it at a great price. It was an amazing investment, but we thought we messed it up. We further thought we messed it up because when we did our renovation, by the time it finished, we thought we missed the window to get good tenants because we were hoping to place tenants for May, the 12-month lease. We were in August already. I'm like, well, school starts in September. Who are we going to find? No, we actually were living in it at the time because just to save on money and stuff, we lived in it.
okay.
And then I was like, I'm going to put a ghost ad out. We're just going to see how much interest we get. I had that whole thing rented in a week. And
Wow.
our biggest problem was we needed to find a new place to live in the next 3 weeks. And we bought our next property really quickly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
But we
amazing.
panicked. We thought we messed up. We thought, oh, we missed this. We did that. We did all these things wrong. Um,
Mhm.
there's options. And if you position yourself well, there's multiple options.
And what made you pivot like towards student rentals? Like it didn't work as a duplex, and what made you pick that?
The location. The
Oh,
location was,
okay. Oh, okay.
yeah. Yep. The property
Wow.
you know well.
Yeah, yeah, I know that. I know that property.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the location just made it a natural next option. And that's one thing,
Okay.
like we had more than one option, which is fabulous. Because
Huh.
when one didn't fit like we thought it would, and then you look back on it and you look back on thinking you made these terrible mistakes or you spent all this money, but in real estate, time and all that effort in there, you make money regardless, as long as you don't do something too crazy. And I look back on it and I'm like, it's the best mistake we ever could have made. That was great. It was our start out in the Durham region.
That's amazing. So that
Yeah.
was obviously a successful investment. Can you tell us of any other successful investments that you've had?
Yeah, so I mean, we went from the student rental to buying turnkey 2 unit properties to doing conversions to 2 units. So that was a big learning curve to
Hmm.
start converting to 2 units. We didn't do the work ourselves. We were firm believers in we were good at what we were good at, and somebody else was good what they were good with what they were good at. So we were happy to pay swipe the card, write the check, that kind of thing. So that was good. But I think what accelerated us the most is that we house hacked right through it. So that we continue to move
Yeah.
property to property. I can remember one time when I was pregnant with our first. I was due in about a month, and we moved into this property, and same mover, moved us 10 times in 6 years.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and his name's Mike. I don't even know his last name. He's mover Mike.
Yeah.
And I
Awesome.
every time after a move, I just go pay him cash for the move and say thanks, whatever. I remember this was in August, and I paid him my cash, and I said, by the way, I'd like to book you for November 27th. That's when our next property closes. So we'll be out that quick. So we just, by house hacking, it just worked well for us. People assume that because we lived in them, we always did stay 5% down, that kind of thing. Not at all. We still often put 20% down. It's just we didn't carry an extra mortgage. while the house was under renovations, we always lived there. So we needed a place to live. We would be carrying a mortgage wherever we were. For us, it was our frugal way to just accelerate a little bit more quickly.
But, I think that is just so amazing. And I'm thinking house hacking. I don't know. I look around just, even in my office and my house, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we would have to offload so much stuff. Like I would think that if you're a house hacker, like you have to have almost like a minimalist type of lifestyle, like not accumulate a lot of stuff because you got to get up and go and you're not in any one spot for a very long time. I think
We
that's
rarely
amazing.
had pictures on walls. Rarely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So what piece of advice do you wish you had at the start of your investment journey that any information that you know now that you wish you knew back then?
That I mean it's one of the biggest things I've learned. One of the most important things is tenant screening, and being really good at vetting tenants is the paramount most important thing you can do. Who you place into your properties dictates a lot of stress or enjoyment in your life. It dictates your financial future with that property, and it can make or break things, especially the first go around, like your first group of tenants.
Yeah.
And another small piece of advice that I learned: if you're filling your own vacancies, I'm just going to recommend this to everybody. It's not a game changer, but it is something that will make your life happier and easier. Just like I say, the auto reply on the emails, you'll respond in 48 hours to make your life a little simpler. If you're doing showings with tenants, my experience is about 50% of tenants actually show up to their showings. So we
Oh,
implemented a rule where we said, if you will be attending the showing, you must send a message 60 minutes before your showing. If you don't, you send a message confirming you will be attending, we won't be there. Because the number of
oh,
times I showed up to a property with oftentimes a baby in hand, and no one showed up. It was awful if I think of the amount of hours wasted, just with that whole process. So that's one silly little tidbit that we learned that I think
okay.
made that part of our lives a little bit more manageable. We don't fill our own vacancies anymore because it's my least favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that reason mainly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like I think it's important in the beginning when you're learning, the process or just learning how to do anything, all the little
Yeah.
tasks in your business. I think it's good to learn it yourself so that when you're ready to pass it off, you can either instruct or direct, or you just know what to expect and you know how things are run and you can
Yeah.
just set expectations a lot easier that
Absolutely.
way.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share about your real estate investing journey?
Um, no, I think the biggest thing is just there's options for almost not almost any budget or any individual. Real estate investing can vary what it means for a lot of different people, and I'd say right now, it's not a get rich quick scenario with real estate. Real estate is about wealth building and long term investing. There are people who can do flips and things and do well with that, but if people are to really truly generate wealth with real estate, it's a long-term play. So you just have to be prepared that the small bumps today and tomorrow are going to result in great things in the long run.
That's great. I love it. All right, I got some lightning round questions for you.
Perfect.
It's all about you. You're in the spotlight.
Perfect.
These are just fun questions. Okay, first question. If you were given the chance to start a dream project today with unlimited resources, what would it be?
Goodness, that's a pretty tricky question. A dream project for me, I don't know. It'd probably be some sort of an initiative with homelessness, probably, just with
Oh,
the housing crisis we have and the number of tent cities we've seen around. I feel like there's got to be a solution, a better solution, a solution that's not a temporary fix, and something that enables people to improve their own futures. So, with homelessness and mental health and addiction, there's so much convolution of a lot of these different challenges. I think I'd probably immerse myself in that.
oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. Huh. Actually, you and I have to talk because there's something that I've been kind of working on in my head. And I've
Okay.
actually had a couple of meetings about it, but I
Okay.
need other people to make it to make it a reality. So we'll talk. Okay. Um if you were stranded on a desert island and could only bring one item, what would it be and why?
A device probably to play music. I think being in solitude without music or something. Like I can't say podcasts because you'd run through them all, you get bored of them. But
Yeah.
music, certain songs I can never tire from. So I think some form of music so that I don't go absolutely crazy.
Oh, great. Love it. What's one surprising fact about yourself that nobody knows about?
That nobody knows about me. Well, I don't think that I'm a pretty
Or,
good book. There's nothing nobody knows about me, but I started my first business when I was 9 years old.
oh,
I don't think I've shared this on any podcast before. I decided that with my parents that we had a litter of little bunnies. I said,
oh,
I'm going to become a rabbit farmer. So I lived up in the
oh,
country, and I thought I would be able to breed these rabbits and just sell them to families as pets. Well, the reality struck that not many people want rabbits as pets. So guess what, Anita? If you're going to be a rabbit farmer, guess who else buys rabbits? Butcher shops and people who do use rabbits for meat. So I had to
ooh.
have the harsh reality of knowing that if I was going to grow that business, my rabbits weren't going to be just cute little bunnies, cute little pets. We would now have to take it to the next step. That was a harsh reality at 9, but I went through it. It was a great experience. My parents set up a balance sheet because they had built everything, bought all the feed, everything, all the rabbits to start. And I was working away as I sold on my, balance sheet, and I would broke even. I was starting to make money, and unfortunately, tragedy hit. And there were 2 wild dogs in our neighborhood who wiped out my entire bunny population.
Oh
In
no.
it was very, very sad, but I started to become an entrepreneur again later, and things sort of balanced out. But I always like to look back and remember that my first entrepreneurial venture was when I was 9 years old.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so where can our listeners and viewers find us, or sorry, find you? And
Yeah.
yeah, or how can they get in touch with you?
So Instagram or Facebook is pretty easy. So Doors to Wealth is our group. So I own and run Doors to Wealth Real Estate Group. We're 5 agents that work together on investment real estate and other real estate. Or Anita Bongers-Lewis. If you look for me on Instagram or on Facebook, I'm pretty easy to find. Or my email is just anita@doorstowealth.com.
Perfect. Love it, Anita. Thank you so much for this great, inspiring, and engaging conversation.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
And thanks to everyone for watching. We'll see you next time on another episode of Newly Invested. Happy investing. And that brings us to the end of another enlightening episode of Newly Invested. A huge thank you to our guest and to all of you for tuning in. Remember that investing in real estate is a journey filled with highs and lows, but the key is to keep learning, keep investing, and keep growing. If you want to stay updated with our latest episodes, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate it if you could leave us a review. This is your host, Judith Tait, signing off, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Newly Invested. Happy investing! The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast. The information shared in the podcast is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, or professional advice.